In this video I want to talk to you about the Fa Qi or Fa Gong, the energy emissions, and the steps actually necessary, what it takes to get there eventually. In this video you can see my Fa Qi with Thanasis, a student of mine from Greece. We went together to see Shifu for several reasons, and we took the chance to make a little video together, just to give some demonstration. We have to understand, first of all, what Fa Qi or Fa Gong is. Fa means meeting, and Gong means practice, so it's the practice of the emission. The Fa Gong or Qi emission can take various forms. Of course, the one we show, or the one that it is more visible, let's say like the electric Fa Qi, is probably the most interesting one for many people. It's the one that does a little bit of show, or at least that proves, even through a camera, the existence of something, because you can see the reaction on the other person. Sometimes jumps, sometimes cannot even hold the end for a few seconds before actually pulling it out. I think we have to understand what it is, and how eventually how we get there, and the role that it has in our spiritual growth. I interviewed Thanasis, and probably if you follow my YouTube channel or blog, you saw the video where Thanasis did his first Fa Qi, as you can see here in this little clip. And I interviewed Thanasis because I think Thanasis is one of my students who's really moving forward, in my opinion, in the right direction, giving importance to the right thing. In fact, I suggested to watch that interview to have a deeper understanding of what Nei Gong is really about. But in this video, I would like to explain, for what it is possible, what it takes for a practitioner to get from zero to eventually that level. So first of all, I want to clarify one thing. Fa Qi or Fa Gong is not a technique. Sometimes people write to me, well, you have people saying that we're just scamming everybody, and that's their choice. They have to try it out for themselves and they will change their mind. But sometimes some people write me with the idea of understanding and learning this technique, as if doing a Fa Qi was learning a particular magician trick that you do. No, in reality it's a process that takes many years to get to that level, and it's not even something that everybody will achieve. Because you might feel internally that you have grown your energy to a very high degree. You might feel your body sometimes like a battery or like a power plant. And then when you try to do the emission, nothing comes out. So it's not easy. We have to understand that doing that practice, that demonstration, or that can be also for healing purposes, is not something easy to do. It's not something even good to do, because you're basically taking your own vital energy and you're pulling out your own vital energy for X reason, which will have a purpose or not. So it takes many years to get there. And not only that, we also need some kind of assistance, in the sense that the first times that we try to do a Fa Qi is our teacher actually trying to help us to achieve that that goal, so to speak. Progressively, the assistance become less and less, but it's a support that we need. Well, some of this assistance can be just your teacher helping you out to do it for the first time, and actually you start to believe it, that it is possible, because it is actually something insane to believe, although that you might have a great energy experiences in your body. It's still something that the mind doesn't really cope with it that much, because it's really insane to believe that the other person could perceive that strong current, which actually you also perceive on the end, holding the other end. I don't know if you saw Fa Qi. You usually hold one end, let's say, and then you perceive what the other person is perceiving also. So it's quite insane to believe that we get to that level of intensity in terms of vital energy. The implications of growing vital energy for me goes far beyond doing a Fa Qi. Fa Qi is probably 1%, 5% of the benefits of doing this kind of work. There are things in terms of human transformation we don't even think are possible, in terms of exploring life and connecting with life on various levels, which are just out of our mind. In fact, in terms of Fa Qi, or so the practice of the emission, you have also other forms, such as the Fa Shen, the emission of Qi, of energy at distance, beyond time and space, which is something that, again, our brain will not cope with it, will not understand it, but it exists. And once we got into that level, things becomes interesting in terms of also perception of reality, of what we think that reality is really. It's not that solid thing that we believe. But anyway, going to the Fa Qi assisted process. In the beginning, you might have a teacher. That's why also it is important to practice with somebody who has proven to you that this thing exists, so you can feel it, you can understand where eventually you're going, specific on that specific subject. Not that this should be the goal. I think putting as a main goal, it's actually quite limited and doesn't really improve the human beings 360 degrees. So we go from step one, assisted. Other ways could be also taking the Qi pills, which are these Dian Yao, I think they're called in Chinese. These are like external external alchemy, let's call it like this, because we can grow energetically in two ways, internally or by using external components. In this case, they are compounds that can facilitate the Fa Qi expression by opening the channels and by also stimulating that process to happen, which in other case, that process will not happen, which means that maybe you do a Fa Qi, you're doing a Qi pills, but it's not sure that you will be able to do it without them, because they have that function. Some of these Qi pills have that function. By the way, I don't recommend anybody to go too much in that direction. If it is a trial that happens during your training with the other kind of system or anything like this, but if you rely just on that, it's just that instead of going to the gym and doing the workout, you just take supplements, and we know what happens when, like with steroids, when you stop doing that. At some point, everything collapses like a over-mature banana or something like this, falls down. So the second way, let's say, could be assisting ourselves with the use of these pills, which could be okay if done it and understood for what they are and why we're doing it. But this is not something that I recommend. And I'm saying this because all the time, at least. I say this because sometimes I know also from my students that some teachers, they encourage a lot the students just to take the pills, and they're making lots of money, but eventually you don't even know what's happening with your health. It's just something that doesn't feel natural to me. I'm more a progressive, gradual growth guy, because things stays when you build them little by little rather than trying to make them happen quite quickly. Then eventually, the assistance of the teacher should be there, but less and less, hopefully. And maybe what we're able to do is not even that crazy in terms of intensity in the beginning of the years, because it really takes time. It's quite of a mystery, the whole thing, to be honest. That level of intensity might not be there in the beginning when we are able to start to emit something. Although maybe within our body we perceive this battery power plant, the electric power plant, I don't know how you call it in English, charge, that it's amazing for other purposes, especially if you are more, let's say, devoted or directed towards the spiritual growth, because really opens up another layer of connection with life and with that part of this process, rather than just an intellectual process. It becomes also an energetic way to get there, and to grow spiritually we need the energy. But yeah, eventually the assistance of the teacher needs to disappear little by little. And at some point, all of a sudden, something clicks and the intensity becomes very strong. That's just a short story, just to bring a little bit of clarity in topics that sometimes are very little spoken about. Just to summarize, the assistance of the teacher is very valuable. It's very important, and without that, I don't think that we can really do much about this energy process. But eventually, it needs to disappear. It needs to disappear till we get maybe to a point that we're able to do it. Maybe not that strong in the beginning, because it really takes many years. It's not a magic movement that some people believe. It takes many years to get to that level of intensity, and it's a process bigger than ourselves. And just to close this video in, I think, in a good way, which is very important, we might do this kind of things supported by external things or by our teacher, but there is one aspect that it is really important to do it yourself, and it is actually developing yourself 360 degrees. So what I mean is not just focusing on the lower dantian, it's also developing the higher dantian quite a lot, because it's the union of these two aspects, let's say, that really creates that powerful process. And if you develop yourself 360 degrees, so including also the upper floor, let's call it like this, your value and your importance to this aspect of the practice will naturally diminish, because you will get to understand and discover things that go far beyond this thing, this life thing, and they're really beautiful. So you will give the correct role. It's an achievement. Doing a Fa Chi is an achievement. It's an external demonstration for other people. You're not just talking about energy. It has some good implications, such as helping students in their practice by opening their channels, which doesn't mean that the students don't need to practice or they will be boosted quite a lot. No, it's just a temporary process. In fact, some people rely on this and then they go down again, because unless it is supported by a proper practice, nobody can do the work for you. And I think that external strong intervention have strong consequences. So I'm a slow process guy in this sense, which I think is also the fastest way to get there, to grow 360 degrees as human beings, to give value, the right value at the right things, and to discover something more than just achieving a personal achievement, which might sound and might be the interesting element in the beginning that that develops the interest towards this kind of Nei Gong practices, but eventually needs to transform into something more, to our, I don't like these words too much, immortality aspect, to our consciousness, to who we are deeply. And we have a great element, which is the vital energy that can really do a lot in that sense. Not intellectually, like maybe we try to do with other kind of resources, philosophical or religious, whatever it is, but practically. So everything becomes our own discovery, our own responsibility. I think this is the greatest gift that we can have by growing vital energy to a high degree.